you you definitely have interviewed almost all
All
of
of
them, if not all
all of
of
them,
them.
all of them.
And the one who comes to mind most often these days is somebody you've sparred with publicly and regularly,
Mhm.
who you used to be quite close with, and that's Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, I mean, there's so many elements, whether it's the woke mind virus, his
Mhm.
relationship with government.
Yeah.
But can you just at the very top line, can you just tell us what you think has
About him?
happened to Elon Musk?
All
Yeah.
right. I get a lot of flack for thinking he was really inspirational. Like I said so. I just was here was me as a beat reporter. And as you know, Sarah, you're an excellent beat reporter too. You're a beat reporter, you can't really say what you think of anybody, for a long time. But then when I got to All Things D, one of the reasons I created it within the Wall Street Journal was I was sick of not saying what I thought about
Hmm.
stuff I reported on. Right? I did not talk about things I didn't know. I did extensive reporting and then I came to a conclusion. That's what All Things D was about, to get rid of the to be sure statement that the Wall Street Journal foisted upon me. And you know that sentence, right? To be sure, some people say, you know that one. Rupert Murdoch is not a terrible person. Like, I just am like, he is. Like, stop it. Like, I think he is based on my reporting, and I can say that. And so once I started doing that, I was able to say that. And one of the things I noticed was a lot of really smart people in my mind working on stupid things, right? Like if I had to talk to, I use this example on this book tour with like, if I hear one more digital dry cleaning, I'm doing but it's digital, Kara. I'm like, but you're still cleaning the clothes, right? Like, I don't get it. They were also dumb, the ideas. Like they started to get really dumb and minuscule, right? Kind of like doesn't really move the needle. Here was a guy who had been doing, like, he did a Yellow Pages thing, not that impressive, fine, whatever, digitizing Yellow Pages, okay. They did a payment system, which was interesting. He did X, and then he and PayPal merged and sold it. Okay, made some money. But instead of doing what everybody else did, like, part-time VCs and full-time pontificators, he didn't create Tesla. He invested in it and then became the head of it, Tesla. He did SpaceX. He was doing some like brain company. He did a tunnel digging thing, which seems to be kind of kooky, but I like the initiative. It was interesting, right? But at least
Mm.
on a couple things, space and energy saving for cars, boy, that was important to me. I was like, oh, finally, someone is dealing with real issues, right? That have impact. Now, what happened to him is there's lots of theories on what happened to him, but he had a part of his personality that was silly, like a lot of them. Not just silly, just stupid, juvenile. Like, you know what I mean? A boob joke, a penis joke, a dank meme. He had that. Like, and he was far too old, as many of them are, to be telling so many of them. But it was a minor part of his personality. There were issues around racial issues and sexual harassment issues at his factories. Look, this was throughout. I was in the middle of covering Uber on this issue. This was not fresh or at Kleiner Perkins. This was problematic across the tech industry, and we wrote about it. And but at the same time, these were really interesting, innovative companies. Then something happened during COVID. I That is where when he did that first pedo thing, I was like, that's weird. Which this is the cave diver who he accused of being a pedophile. Nobody
Hmm.
throws around that term loosely, and I was like, wow, that was weird. You know what I mean? That was weird. That said, he did win in that court case. It was stupid on his part and really cruel. Then during COVID, he started pontificating about COVID because he was mad because they were closing down his factory, and he was on the nice edge of going out of business, right? On a lot of things. And this was pre-COVID. And we did an interview before COVID where he went through a very dramatic period when Tesla was in big trouble. They got a government loan, and then they were really in a valley of death situation. And when we were doing this interview, I think it was 2018. It was Halloween. I remember it was Halloween, but um, he kept saying, he had to sleep on the factory floor. That's something he said. And I was like, why?
Mm.
Like, because I had to be there. And I was like, okay, like, there's a bed nearby. Like, you could have gotten a motel next door. And then so it was highly dramatic. And then he said something to me, which was like, if Tesla didn't survive, humanity was doomed. That was essentially the message. And I was like, oh, that's a little
Uh-huh.
dramatic. That's a little egomaniacal. It was weird. You know what I mean? I filed
Right.
it away. He didn't do it that often, but he had that sort of godlike tendency. And then during the first Trump thing, when I talked to him quite a bit about they were going to do an anti-gay executive order. They did the Muslim thing. He and I talked. I was like, they're going to do a Muslim ban. And he's like, I shall
Right.
convince them otherwise. I remember that. And I said, listen, Jesus, good for you, but I don't believe you can stop him. Like, I think you're wrong. You're misjudging this guy badly because he says it. Trump is so explicit. It's not like he's hiding under a sheet doing things, although that's a good, interesting metaphor I just used. But he was very explicit in his racism and homophobia and etc. And so that was interesting. I was like, wow, you really think you're God? You know, it was language that was made me uncomfortable. That's for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
then we had an
Mm-hmm.
interview during COVID where he started to say things that were strange. You know what I mean? Like there'll be no COVID deaths or whatever. It's not a big deal. I'm not getting the COVID vaccine. The government's trying to get me. The man is trying to get me. It was that tone. And I kept thinking, well, you kind of are the man. So
Right.
it's okay to be safer than sorry, right? We don't know. And I think I kept saying, you know, maybe they're overreaching, but we don't know. What if it's real bad, right? Like maybe it's good to be a little bit. But he saw it as government overreach. I saw it as safety. That was problematic. And then the Twitter stuff. And I don't know. I think he's just gotten radicalized the way a lot of people are online. I think drug use, as the Wall Street Journal has written quite accurately about, might be part of it. And then it's just being the world's richest man with everybody, again, licking you up and down. He gets
Right.
particularly licked. And so he's always right. And we had a big falling out, inexplicable falling out, but I don't care, whatever.